My mother dropped her wine glass the moment she saw me. The stem slipped through her fingers like she'd been shocked by something electric, but it was just me, standing there. On the deck of the house she thought she had rented for her 40th wedding anniversary. The glass didn't shatter. It hit the wood and rolled, catching sunlight before settling in place like it didn't want to make a scene. My father went pale. He half stood, one hand gripping the arm of his chair, as if unsure whether to rise or run. My siblings froze. My sister Brooke clutched her husband's arm. My brother Andrew's mouth opened just slightly like a man who'd seen a ghost but didn't want to admit it. They hadn't invited me. They hadn't spoken to me in 10 years. But here I was. And here they were. I took a slow breath, adjusted the collar of my black dress, and stepped forward. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't ask them why. I didn't explain how. I simply said, "I hope you're enjoying your stay." And then before they could speak, I added, "This is my house." The silence that followed wasn't surprise. It was something older, heavier, like a door they'd nailed shut years ago had just creaked open behind them. My name is Claire Benton. I'm 30 years old. And 10 years ago, my parents told me very calmly, very clearly, that I was no longer part of their plan. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just walked away. But I never disappeared. Not really. And today, neither did they. Growing up in the Harwood household meant knowing exactly how to exist, just enough to be useful, but never so much that you became inconvenient. My older brother Andrew was the golden child. Ivy League graduate junior partner at a top firm by 28, already showing signs of a heart condition by 30. My younger sister Brooke danced through life like a debutante from a Southern postcard. Married into money before finishing college, she had the smile, the figure, and the right last name twice over. And then there was me, Claire, the middle child, the placeholder between two completed legacies. I was quiet, observant, not rebellious, just misplaced. I never slammed doors or dyed my hair. I never smoked or cursed or stayed out late. I just watched. From the age of 7, I carried around a camera, a plastic disposable one at first, something my grandmother gave me one Christmas when she couldn't remember what I liked. I took pictures of everything: sunlight hitting the dining table, dust floating in the hallways, the way Marta the housekeeper smiled when she watered the orchids and thought no one was watching. My mother would glance at the photos, straighten a cushion I'd leaned on, and say with a polite smile, "Photography is a lovely hobby, Claire. But it's not a career. Not for someone like you. Someone like me." I wasn't sure what that meant exactly, but I learned to take my pictures in secret. In the garden, from the stairs, in the mirror when no one was home. I learned early that love in our family came through achievement, not attention. And my photos, my quiet little glimpses of the world, earned nothing but indifference. So I studied economics. I got good grades. I kept the camera hidden in my bag like a vice. I gave them the version of me they thought they wanted. But even then, I knew it wouldn't last, because sooner or later I'd have to choose between being seen and staying silent. And I already knew what silence felt like. We were celebrating in a quiet, expensive way, like always. White tablecloths, soft lighting, crystal glasses that caught the glow just right. A restaurant where the servers never interrupted and the food arrived like a performance. I had just graduated from NYU's business program. My father had helped secure me an internship at a top-tier advertising agency. My mother wore her signature pearls. Andrew toasted to my future. Brooke took a picture of the dessert tray, and I sat there holding a secret so heavy it made my hands ache. When the waiter cleared the appetizers, I folded my napkin and said it plainly. "I'm not going into advertising. I've declined the internship. I've been accepted into a professional photography mentorship. I start next month. No raised voices, no slammed hands." That wasn't the Harwood way. My mother kept smiling, but her eyes turned cold like frost forming on a window pane. My father looked at me like I'd just spoken a language he didn't understand. It was my mother who broke the silence first. "Claire," she said calmly, "you're tired. The last few years have been intense. You'll think differently once you rest." "I won't," I said. "This is ridiculous," my father muttered. "You're not throwing everything away. We've invested in your education. Your future is at Patterson and Pierce, not in some hobbyist's garage. I already declined their offer." "You what?" And then came the dismantling, slow measured and deliberate. Photography was unstable, below our station, a waste of potential. They spoke in the tone they used with business associates who had disappointed them, firm, polite, final. "If you do this," my father said at last, "you do it alone. No help, no fallback. We will not indulge this phase." "You'll come to your senses," my mother added, adjusting her water glass. "Eventually." I waited to feel scared. I didn't. I felt something else hollowed out. 2 days later, I packed what I could into the back seat of a used Honda Civic. Some clothes, 3 cameras, $800 left from graduation gifts. Andrew watched from the doorframe, arms folded. "They'll get over it," he said. But he didn't sound convinced. Brooke didn't come down to say goodbye. I drove away quietly, no arguments, no drama, no last-minute pleas. I crossed the city line and turned off the family phone plan that night. What I didn't know was that I had also been written out of dinners, out of photos, out of stories told at holidays, out of memory. And for the first time in my life, I understood exactly what it meant to be invisible. The first year was brutal. I rented a room in a 5th-floor walk-up in Brooklyn shared with 3 other girls who barely spoke to me. During the day, I worked as a barista. At night, I waited tables. In between those shifts, I shot whatever I could, cityscapes at dawn, free headshots for musicians, dating profile photos for people I met in line at the laundromat. I ate dollar-slice pizza and skipped meals more than I admitted. I counted change before swiping my Metro card. And every few weeks, I stared at my phone thumb hovering over the contact labeled home. That first Christmas, I called. The line rang. No answer. No voicemail. Just an empty loop of silence. I tried again on New Year's, then my birthday, then Easter. By summer, I stopped trying. Andrew texted me a few times in the beginning. "Happy birthday. Hope you're okay." One time we met for coffee. He was tense, checking his watch every few minutes like he might get caught. "They just need time," he said, but he didn't meet my eyes. You know how they are. About the image. By the second year, even those texts stopped. I learned through Instagram that Brooke had her first child. I learned through an obituary that my grandmother had passed away. Her name was printed in serif font beneath a floral border. Mine wasn't printed at all, not as a granddaughter, not as anyone. I looked at the names of the surviving family, all there Charles, Margaret, Andrew, Brooke, and then a white space where I should have been. That kind of absence isn't quiet. It rings in your ears. It burns behind your ribs. It's one thing to leave a family, it's another to realize they've already erased you, and still I kept shooting. Not for money. Not yet. Just to prove, if only to myself, that I still existed. Light. Shape. Silence. I chased them down alleyways and subway tunnels like they were lifelines. Because at that point they were. The break came on a Tuesday I almost said no to. I was 2 shifts deep into a 12-hour day when someone canceled a catering gig. A friend called desperate. "There's this wedding photographer," she said. "Big deal. High-pressure client. His assistant got food poisoning. He just needs someone to carry equipment and not get in the way." I showed up early, didn't speak unless spoken to. Held reflectors, carried tripods, wiped sweat off lenses before he had to ask. At 2 a.m., while we packed up his gear in the back of a van behind a fancy hotel, he looked at me for the first time like I might be more than background noise. "You've done this before." "Not officially," I said. "But I want to learn." His name was Garrett, mid-40s, sharp, exacting. The kind of man who noticed if your shoelaces were tied unevenly. He wasn't kind, but he was fair. Within weeks, I was assisting him at high-end weddings. Not for charity. Garrett didn't believe in charity. He believed in usefulness, and I made myself useful. He taught me how to work in chaos, how to light a subject with nothing but a flashlight and instinct, how to send invoices, how to write contracts, how to shoot like art but deliver like business. One night, while reviewing my shots from a townhouse in the West Village, he handed me a glass of wine and said, "You ever thought about real estate?" "Not really. You should. Real money's there. People get married once. They buy houses every damn year." I laughed. Then I tried it, and he was right. A modest listing led to a referral. The referral led to a brownstone, and the brownstone led to her, Diana Ellison, widow, publisher, collector of books, architecture, and opinions. She watched me work for 15 minutes in silence, then said, "You see angles people miss." That's rare. She hired me for another shoot, then another. Then she invited me to photograph her personal homes for fun, she said. There were 5: a brownstone, a ski lodge, a pied-à-terre in San Francisco. But her favorite, the one she always saved for last, was a beach house in the Hamptons. It's too quiet for my kids, she told me. Too far from the city. Too much ocean. They hate it. But I didn't. I loved every corner. The light. The sound the stairs made. The way the wind moved the curtains even when the windows were shut. 6 months later, Diana was gone. And I got a call from her attorney. She left you something. I expected a camera. Or maybe a note. But what I received was a deed. And a letter. This house deserves someone who sees it. Make it your own. But more than that, make it work for you. And I did. I moved into the beach house the same week the ocean turned gold before 7. The light hit differently out there, low, warm, generous. I converted the guest house into a studio, hired 2 assistants, ordered furniture with clean lines and soft wood, started offering private shoots for clients vacationing in the Hamptons. The company name came to me one evening as I watched the sun melt behind the waterline. Golden Hour Visuals. It sounded warm, intentional, like something you'd want to remember. Within a year, we were shooting luxury properties across the Northeast. By 2, I had 6 employees. Architectural Digest ran a feature on my work. Hamptons Magazine called me the eye behind the elegance. I bought a small apartment in Manhattan. Quiet, simple. No family photos on the walls. I had what I once believed impossible stability, freedom, beauty on my own terms. People respected me, trusted me, paid me well to capture their stories in angles of light and silence. But at night, when the house quieted and the sea forgot me, I would sometimes open a drawer in my office, the only one I never let staff touch. Inside were photos I didn't display. Old ones. From before. Andrew's law school graduation. Brooke's Sweet 16. My parents' 25th anniversary, everyone in summer white standing by the garden wall. My mother's hand perfectly placed on my father's arm. My smile a little tight. I'd look at those photos the way someone might study a painting in a museum from a distance, with disbelief, with restraint, not out of longing, but not out of indifference either. There were things success had healed, the hunger, the fear, even the shame, but not the loss. That part stayed, not raw, not loud, just present. I didn't miss their approval, but I hadn't stopped wondering what it would have felt like to have it, just once. And then, one afternoon, an Instagram notification pinged on my phone. A photo posted by Andrew Harwood, my parents, standing on a beach, smiling, arms around each other, and behind them, unmistakable in its shape, its light, its sky, was my house. I stared at the photo on my screen. The caption read, "Looking forward to our Harwood family reunion this July. Nothing fancy, just time with the people who matter most." The light behind them was unmistakable. The soft bend of the dunes, the curve of the deck railing, the driftwood sculpture I'd hung by the outdoor shower. This wasn't any beach. It was my beach. My house. I scrolled through Andrew's post again, slower this time. A comment from Brooke. So excited Daddy booked the perfect spot. My stomach turned, not from anger, from the kind of irony that feels like a private joke, except the joke is on you. I pulled up the reservation dashboard through the property agency I worked with when I traveled. Client Harwood H. Dates July 14/21. Status paid in full. They'd rented my house through an anonymous luxury listing. They had no idea. I stared at the confirmation screen a long time. There was an option to cancel. Angela, my property manager, had flagged it for approval. "Unusual situation," she wrote in the note field. "Do you want me to pull the booking?" I almost clicked yes. Almost turned the page before they could rewrite the chapter. But then I remembered something my mother once said, folding linens with military precision. Control the setting, control the outcome. And this was my setting, my house, my light, my name on the deed. So I didn't cancel. I just scheduled the cleaning crew for one day earlier. I left fresh linens, stocked the kitchen with what I knew they liked, and waited. For the first time in years, I would not be the ghost in the room. I would be the one holding the frame. But would they recognize the picture? The first thing I heard was laughter. Soft, polished, familiar. The kind of laughter I hadn't heard in years but had once memorized like a song on repeat. It floated through the open doors of my house across the kitchen. I renovated the deck I rebuilt and into the garden where they were gathered. A long white table, wine glasses, linen napkins, my mother in blue, my father at the head, Andrew and Brooke on either side. For a moment, I watched them from the hallway. Not hidden, just not yet seen. My heart didn't race. It slowed. I stepped through the French doors, steady silent. No dramatic entrance, no camera crew, just me and the floorboards I'd chosen under the feet of people who once erased me. Brooke saw me first. Her hand froze mid-air, still holding a forkful of salad. Her mouth opened, but no sound came. Andrew followed her gaze. His expression didn't change at first. Then he blinked once slowly. My mother turned last. And when her eyes found me, I saw something flicker behind them. Not recognition, not warmth, not even guilt, just surprise, as if I were a door she'd closed years ago and never expected to creak open again. I didn't smile. I didn't wave. I looked directly at her, then at my father, and said, "I hope you're enjoying the view." A few glances. A confused laugh from someone I didn't recognize. Then I added clearly, calmly, "This is my house." The silence wasn't dramatic. It was thick, heavy like wet wool. The kind of silence you don't fill with questions because the answer is standing right in front of you. My father stood halfway. "Claire, what I own this house," I said. "Diana left it to me. I run my business here. You rented it through a broker. You didn't know. I let the truth settle like dust in sunlight. Not rushed, not angry, just true." Then I looked at my mother. She hadn't moved. "No one turned you away," she finally whispered. "No," I replied. "You didn't turn me away. You just stopped looking." After the table cleared and the sky dipped into amber, they lingered in pockets too polite to leave, too rattled to speak freely. Andrew found me first. On the porch. "You could have canceled the booking." "I could have," I said. "Why didn't you?" "Because you wouldn't have known what you walked away from." He looked down at his hands. The same hands that once held mine at the bus stop in 3rd grade when I forgot my lunch. "They erased you," he said. "But not for me." "Then why didn't you say anything?" "Because I didn't know how to stay without losing my place." We didn't hug, but he didn't walk away. Later, Brooke brushed by me in the hallway, still clutching her phone like a shield. "You think this makes you better than us." "No," I said. "I think it makes me honest. You're not the only one who got left out." Her voice cracked barely. "They just used me differently." I watched her go. She didn't look back, but she didn't slam the door. And then there was my mother. She stood in the doorway of the guest room, still wearing that pale blue blouse, the one she used to save for good weekends. "You turned out different than I expected." "That's because you stopped expecting anything from me." For the first time, her face softened. Not apology, not regret, just less armor. "I suppose we thought you'd come back on our terms." "And I did," I said, meeting her eyes. "Except now the terms are mine." The next morning, I woke before the house did. The light was soft again, low and golden, touching the edge of the windows like it always had. I made coffee, fed the gulls, folded the towels someone had left crumpled in the laundry room. At 8:12 a.m., there was a knock on the studio door. My father, alone, shirt tucked too neatly, voice already cleared. "We didn't know how to come back from it," he said. "You didn't try." He nodded, and for once said nothing else. There was no speech, no apology shaped like a legal statement. Just that silence, the kind men like him rarely allow to exist. "Will you come to dinner tonight?" he asked. "No. Can we see you again?" I looked at him, not with cruelty, not with longing. Just clarity. "Maybe," I said, "but not here. Not as your daughter. Just as me." He swallowed, once, and left. Later that afternoon, as they packed their things, I left a note on the kitchen counter. Typed, brief. "I hope you enjoyed the house. Thank you for respecting the space. C." I didn't sign it, Claire, not your daughter. Just C. Clean. Precise. Enough. No hugs, no healing arcs. They came as strangers. They left the same way. But this time, I wasn't the one disappearing. That evening, I set one more table just like they had. Same deck, same ocean, same chairs but rearranged. No linen napkins, no wine glasses. Just paper plates, grilled vegetables, and laughter that didn't need permission. 2 of my assistants came by. Garrett dropped off a lens he knew I liked. One of the neighbors brought pie. No one asked who I used to be. They only knew who I'd become. As the sky went dark, I looked across the table. Not a family bound by blood, but one chosen in quiet, in work, in respect. Someone asked if I wanted a photo. I almost said no. Then I nodded. They raised their glasses, the light caught their faces just right. And for once, I didn't hide behind the lens. I stood in the frame, not forgotten, not forgiven, just seen. And that was enough.